Stay home and watch the dog, my parents told me, the black sheep. They flew to Italy without me, lied I was sick, and left me alone as a minor, until the neighbor threatened to call the cops and their lavish ceremony collapsed. All right, Reddit, here we go. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. So let me explain the cast here before people get confused halfway through and ask, where were you in all of this? Because that's kind of the theme of my life, being invisible in my own family. I'm 17 male, the third kid of two people who have been together since basically dinosaurs were still roaming, but only decided recently that they wanted to make it official. Yes, after 25 years of playing house, they suddenly got the urge to wear fancy clothes and take staged photos in Italy. My mom is 49, my dad is 50, but both of them act like they're 25 influencers doing a soft launch. My sister Natalie, 25 female, is the crown jewel. She and mom are basically glued together. If you picture two people sharing one brain cell and it's covered in Sephora rewards points, that's them. My brother Evan, 22 male, is dad's pride and joy. Cars, sports, weights, all that. They're basically a buddy comedy where I'm not even in the trailer. And then there's me, the unclaimed baggage spinning on the carousel. So, the big event, Tuscany Vineyard Commitment Ceremony. Not even a wedding technically, just them doing vows and wine tasting in Italy because we've earned it. And when I say they've earned it, what they actually meant was they've earned it. Plus Natalie, plus Evan. Not me. Early on, the roles got handed out like candy. Mom goes, Natalie is going to stand with me because she just gets my aesthetic. And Natalie nods like she's on payroll. Dad immediately throws Evan the role on his side because I need a guy who can keep me grounded up there, you know? Yeah, grounded. As if Evan is some kind of emotional life coach and not just a dude who changes his oil too often. I didn't even ask about my role because I've learned by now. But my grandma, God bless her, she actually notices when I breathe, suggested that I could maybe read a short blessing during the ceremony. Something harmless. Parents shut it down instantly. Mom literally waved her hand and said, it'll make it feel like a school assembly. Dad chimed in with, yeah, too cheesy. We want elegant, not cringy. Elegant. You're having a vow exchange at a vineyard with 3 people filming it on iPhones. Relax, but fine. No role for me. Then there was the planning. The family calendar is shared on all our devices. They put a big week-long block on it labeled private. Hilarious. Because the block was visible to all of us, even if the details weren't. Private. Like we don't all live in the same house and hear every discussion anyway. Meanwhile, Natalie gets dragged to boutique after boutique with mom to pick dresses, accessories, the works. Dad and Evan hit up stores for suits, cufflinks, statement shoes. Did I get an invite? Number. Not even a, you want to come for the ride? Nothing. And here's the kicker. They didn't even try to make it subtle. They'd be in the living room talking about flights, hotels, vineyard tours, and if I walked in, conversation just ended. Private in practice even if the calendar block wasn't. Like someone hit pause on a podcast. Dad once looked at me and went, we're in the middle of logistics. You wouldn't understand. Logistics? I'm not asking you to explain nuclear launch codes, dude. I just wanted to grab a soda. Meanwhile, mom was full of these little digs she probably thought were jokes. Stuff like, well, you're not a dressy person anyway, right? Or, I don't think you'd even enjoy this kind of trip. It's a lot of culture. Yeah, because God forbid I accidentally absorb some culture. The cherry on top was the contractor thing. About a month before the trip, Dad casually drops, someone's got to be home to let the contractor in. Fix the pipes. Perfect timing, right? And looks directly at me. Not even pretending it was a group suggestion. Just straight up assigning me the role of unpaid house sitter. And when I said, why me? He goes, well, Natalie has her daughter, Evan's busy with training, and you're more flexible. Flexible meaning expendable, apparently. And I haven't even touched on how they talked about money. Flights, hotels, the vineyard package, all first class, all high end. I overheard mom bragging on the phone to some friend about how this isn't just a vacation, it's an experience. Then she literally said, we deserve it after all these years, and the kids who matter will be there to celebrate. The kids who matter. Said that out loud. Didn't even flinch. At this point, Grandma's the only one who occasionally throws me a bone. She told me she wished she could go but can't handle long trips anymore, then reminded me not to let them make me feel like an afterthought. Easier said than done when the evidence is everywhere. So yeah, family roles. Natalie, the golden maid of honor type, Evan, the golden best man type, parents, the self-proclaimed king and queen of Tuscany, and me, the unpaid dog sitter / contractor wrangler. According to them, that's all perfectly fair. And honestly, the entitlement isn't even hidden. Mom flat out said, "We can't make it about everyone. Some people just don't fit the vibe." Dad once joked, dead serious underneath, that if we bring you, you'll complain about the food and wear sneakers in pictures. Thanks, Dad. Appreciate the confidence. Natalie backed him up with, "He's right though, you literally hate fancy stuff." Great. Thanks for speaking for me. Evan stayed quiet, which is basically the family equivalent of siding with them. So there it was. My family had their vineyard fantasy locked in. Natalie with her matching dress, Evan with his polished suit, parents ready to toast their decades-long journey. Kat and me? My role was to stay home, water the plants, and apparently not ruin their aesthetic. And if you're wondering whether it gets worse, oh, just wait. This was just the warm-up. So apparently my official role in this Tuscany fairy tale was resident responsible adult who doesn't get invited. Let me explain how my parents pitched it, because it was truly Olympic-level entitlement. About 2 weeks before the trip, Dad re-ran the same pitch as a reminder. Well, someone's got to stay behind and handle real life. The contractor is coming for the pipes. The dog needs walks. The house can't just be empty. Perfect chance for you to step up. He said it with the same tone people use when they tell their kid they're old enough to drive. Except this wasn't freedom. It was babysitting a house I don't even own. I asked why me, and Mom answered like it was obvious. Natalie can't. She has her daughter. Even though her daughter wasn't going to Italy, she'd be with her dad. So that excuse didn't even make sense. Evan's training is too important right now. You're the flexible one. Flexible apparently means the one with no social leverage so we can dump everything on him. And of course, Dad had to add, it's good practice for adulthood. Think of it as training. Training for what exactly? Being forgotten? Nailed that years ago. They kept bringing it up casually, like this was a perfectly logical arrangement. If I pushed back, they hit me with lines like, well, if you can't handle responsibility, maybe you're not mature enough for a trip like this anyway. Translation: you don't get to come, but also we'll insult you while we're at it. Mom once said, I just know you'd rather be at home gaming than wandering around old buildings. She didn't even ask me, just decided what I wanted and rolled with it. Meanwhile, all the group chats about the trip kept buzzing. Notifications nonstop, photos of dresses, questions about vineyard tours, Evan posting gym selfies with captions like, gotta stay sharp for Italy. I wasn't in the group chat, but I saw enough on the family iPad to know what was going on. It wasn't like they were hiding it. They'd literally sit in the kitchen laughing about it. One time I walked in and Dad said, oh, we're just going over logistics. Nothing for you to worry about. Logistics? The way they talk about a vacation like it's a military operation cracks me up. It got even better when I asked, half joking, if I should at least get some spending money for this responsible adult role. Mom looked at me like I'd asked her to hand over the deed to the house. We're already covering your expenses here. Food, shelter, bills. You don't need extra. Or food and shelter? Yeah, thanks for not charging me rent while you ditch me for Europe. Dad piled on with, this isn't about money. It's about trust. We're trusting you. Right, trusting me to feed the dog while you blow thousands on wine tastings. Their entitlement wasn't even subtle. At dinner one night, Dad goes, you know, most kids your age don't get this kind of responsibility. You should be grateful. Grateful? For being the unpaid house sitter while everyone else eats gelato in Florence? Then Natalie jumps in. Honestly, you'd be so bored in Tuscany. At least here you have your games, your shows, your little comforts. My little comforts. Thank you, Natalie, for speaking like I'm a 5-year-old with a blankie. Evan just shrugged and said nothing, which is basically his way of agreeing without getting his hands dirty. But then he had the nerve to say, well, at least you get the whole house to yourself. That's kind of sick. Yeah, nothing screams sick like being the guy who got left behind because his family didn't think he was worth a plane ticket. And of course, every time I asked about the actual trip, flights, hotel, anything, they either changed the subject or laughed it off. Mom once said, don't worry about the boring details. That's for us to handle. Boring details? Flights aren't boring. They're literally the thing that determines if you get to Italy or not. Dad said, we'll let you know what you need to know, which turned out to be code for, we're not going to tell you anything because you're not coming. The best part is they framed all of this as if it was my choice. Well, if you'd shown more interest in the planning, maybe you'd be involved. Interest? I wasn't even invited to the planning. It's like telling someone they didn't get the job because they didn't show up to the interview, when you never sent them the invite in the first place. The whole responsibility angle was just an excuse. They made it sound noble, like I was the chosen guardian of the kingdom, while the royals went off to celebrate. In reality, They choreographed a 4-person photo op and parked me at home to keep the lights on. Dad even said once, "It'll be easier to just have 4 tickets. 5 complicates everything." Complicates what? Clicking one more box on Expedia? Mom backed him up with, "We want to keep it intimate. You'll understand when you're older." Yeah, because apparently intimacy means excluding your own kid. So that was the setup. 2 parents acting like they're too classy for honesty, Natalie treating me like the mascot left on the bench, Evan pretending neutrality while he packed his suit, and me being told I should feel honored to stay behind and guard the dog. And through it all, they said it with straight faces, like I should be nodding along and thanking them for the opportunity. That's how the week leading up to the trip played out. I kept my mouth shut for the most part, because what was I going to do? Beg them? They already decided. They wanted their little foursome in Italy, and I was the flexible extra who didn't fit the aesthetic. And according to them, it was my privilege to make sure the water bill didn't bounce while they drank Chianti. The day before departure was when everything went from hilariously insulting to actual documentary evidence that my parents had written me out of the script. Up until then, they kept it vague, making it sound like I was choosing responsibility by staying behind. But this was the day when the mask came off and the receipts were sitting right there on the family iPad. It started with Mom doing her usual "I'm the organized one" routine. She waltzed into my room like a manager doing a surprise inspection and goes, "Do you have your luggage ready? We can't be late to the airport tomorrow." Performative, like I'd been included all along. She said it like I was supposed to already be halfway packed, as if I'd been secretly included in this entire thing the whole time. I just looked at her and said, "Why would I have luggage ready? I don't even know if I have a ticket." Her face froze for a solid 2 seconds. Then she tried to act confused, like she'd never considered the possibility. "What do you mean, of course you do? Don't tell me you haven't prepared." She actually had the audacity to scold me like I'd failed some homework assignment. So I asked again, straight up, "Do I even have a ticket?" And that's when she blinked like she'd just seen a ghost. Now I'm not dumb. If I was included, there'd be a ticket somewhere. I knew something was off. So while she was still standing there sputtering, I grabbed the family iPad from the counter in the hallway and opened the airline app they'd all been logged into for weeks. One tap. Right there. Under upcoming trips, 4 tickets. Names. Dad, Mom, Natalie, Evan. That's it. My name was nowhere. Not in tiny print, not hidden, not forgotten. Just not there. I turned the screen around and said, "Guess I don't need to pack after all." Mom went pale, then immediately switched gears into damage control mode. "Oh, we must have overlooked that," she said, right up until the receipts showed it wasn't an oversight. "Don't make this dramatic. We can still buy you a ticket last minute," as if forgetting your own kid was on the level of misplacing a charger cable. Then Dad walks in, sees us staring at the iPad, and without missing a beat goes, "You're seriously blowing this out of proportion. If you want to come, just throw something in a bag. Wear whatever, you've never cared about clothes anyway." That's a direct quote. I apparently don't care about clothes, so it doesn't matter that they didn't buy me a suit, or a seat, or even bother to mention any of this. So I asked them, "Okay, let's say you get me a last-minute ticket. Then what? Do I have a room? Do I have anything to wear? Or was I just going to stand in the background in jeans while everyone else plays matching family?" Mom's brilliant response, "You can make do. You've always been low maintenance." Low maintenance. Translation: we didn't bother, and now it's your personality trait. At this point, the argument basically turned into them gaslighting me with Olympic precision. Dad said, "You know, maybe if you'd been more involved in planning, this wouldn't have happened." Yeah, because I should have inserted myself into discussions I was literally shut out of. Mom piled on with, "You always act like you're not interested in these things. So how were we supposed to know?" Right, because apparently me not crashing their boutique trips equals me opting out of a family ceremony. I told them flat out that they'd forgotten me. They didn't even try to deny it. Instead, they twisted it. Dad goes, "You make yourself so small sometimes that it's easy to overlook you," he said, hours before I saw the chat, where they decided it'd be easier to plan without me. Imagine saying that to your kid. Imagine saying, "It's basically your fault we forgot you exist." Mom agreed, saying, "You're always in your own world. We thought you wanted space." Space? You don't give someone space by buying everyone else first-class tickets and leaving them to babysit the house. That's not space. That's exile. After that, I took the dog out and walked past the houses with yellow porch lights and kids' bikes tipped in the grass. I kept thinking about how every family has a soundtrack, and ours is just the sound of doors closing softly, politely, permanently. In the dark, I caught my reflection in a window, and barely recognize the kid who keeps being told he wouldn't enjoy it anyway. Maybe that's the trick. Say it enough times and it becomes a personality they can blame. Low maintenance, flexible, invisible. All those adjectives that mean easy to leave behind. Then came the cherry on top. Dad got angry and snapped, "If you're going to keep this attitude, maybe you shouldn't come at all." He said it like it was punishment, like I was supposed to beg him to reconsider. Instead, I just said, "Fine." That shut them up for about 5 seconds before Mom tried one last time to spin it. "Don't ruin this for everyone. We deserve this celebration." Because nothing screams deserve like throwing one kid in the trash to make the family photos symmetrical. The rest of the evening was pure tension. Natalie and Evan didn't even address me. Natalie was too busy ironing her dress and posting aesthetic packing for Italy shots to Instagram. Evan was polishing his suit shoes like he was about to meet the Pope. Neither of them asked why I wasn't packing. Neither of them offered to help. It's like they'd all silently agreed I wasn't part of this script. So I stayed in my room, watching them roll their matching luggage out the front door the next morning, like they were filming a commercial for perfect family vacations. They didn't even say goodbye properly. Just a half-hearted, "We'll see you in a week," as if they were running errands. And that was that. 4 tickets, 4 names, 1 missing. And apparently that was all totally reasonable, because I was low maintenance and not a dressy person. And so the family takes off with their 4 golden tickets, and I'm left home with the dog, the contractor, and the honor of being the forgotten child. By the next morning, they're already posting pictures like they're brand ambassadors for perfect vineyard families. Mom's Facebook caption, "Finally making it official in Tuscany, surrounded by love." Translation, surrounded by everyone we actually like. Now here's where their creativity really shines. Because obviously people noticed I wasn't in the pictures. Aunts, cousins, family friends, they all started asking the obvious. Where's OP? Did he miss his flight? Did he stay back for school? Easy questions, reasonable questions. My parents? Oh, they cooked up a cover story faster than Gordon Ramsay yelling at raw chicken. Their big excuse was that I'd caught the flu. Yep, according to them, I was quarantined at home. Poor little me, too sick to even stand. Mom replied to one of the comments. Sadly, OP came down with a nasty flu right before the trip. We didn't want to risk anyone getting sick. We missed him so much. She even added a sad emoji, the performance of a lifetime. Dad chimed in under her post. Yeah, OP wanted us to still go and celebrate. Strong kid. Strong kid. As if I gave them my blessing from my imaginary sickbed. Here's the problem. I wasn't sick. Not even close. I was literally sitting at home eating cereal and watching YouTube. So when I saw these posts, I almost laughed. Like, really? That's the story? You forgot to buy me a ticket. And instead of admitting it, you're out here pretending I'm patient zero? So I decided to have a little fun. I walked into urgent care that same day, told the doctor I'd been exposed to flu symptoms. Total lie, but whatever. They'll test anyone these days. Swabbed, done, results back, negative across the board. Influenza A, negative. Influenza B, negative. RSV, negative. Printed out on a nice sheet of paper with my name and the date. Couldn't have asked for better receipts. I took a picture of the sheet and posted it online with the caption, "Not sick at all, just forgotten." That's it. No long essay, no rant, just the evidence. My friends saw it. Extended family saw it. Random people from school saw it. And here's the thing. I didn't even have to tag anyone. The internet did the rest for me. Everyone who saw my parents' Tuscany photo dump now saw my urgent care receipt too. The best part? People started commenting on their posts directly. Wait, I thought OP was sick? Didn't he just post a negative test? What's going on here? And because the internet is basically a gossip factory, it spread fast. My parents' little romantic trip suddenly had a subplot. The missing kid who apparently wasn't actually sick. You could practically feel them panicking through the screen. Mom stopped replying to comments altogether. Dad tried deleting a few, but once something's out there, it's out there. Screenshots were already flying around group chats. Extended relatives were texting me asking, "What happened? Did they really not bring you?" And me, being the responsible one, replied honestly, "They never bought me a ticket." No exaggeration, just the truth. Meanwhile, back in Tuscany, they kept posting like nothing was wrong. More vineyard selfies, more "so blessed" captions, more pictures of Natalie in her dress, and Evan looking like he was auditioning for GQ. It was almost funny, like they were trying to bury the scandal under a mountain of filters and hashtags. But every photo had people asking, "Where's OP?" It became the running joke. Forget "Where's Waldo?" This was "Where's the kid you left home alone?" Here's the kicker, though. Their entitlement didn't even take a break. Instead of admitting fault, they doubled down. Mom texted me privately, "Why would you post that? You're embarrassing us in front of everyone." Embarrassing them. Not, "We're sorry." Not, "We messed up." Nope. Just pure outrage that their perfect vineyard aesthetic got ruined. Dad followed up with, "You need to take that down. Family matters shouldn't be made public." Family matters. The same ones they lied about in public 5 minutes ago. And when I didn't take it down? Oh, the text escalated. Natalie chimed in with, "Seriously, you're making this bigger than it is. People are talking about you like you're some victim, as if I wasn't literally the victim of being left home like forgotten leftovers." Evan sent me a classic non-committal line, "Bro, just let it go. You'll get your turn someday." My turn. Like family events are a waiting line at Disneyland. So now we had two parallel realities. The vineyard fantasy where I supposedly had the flu and gave them my blessing, and the actual reality where I had a negative test, a dog to walk, and neighbors asking me why my parents left me home alone. Guess which version people believed? By the end of the week, their posts had fewer likes and way more comments. People weren't congratulating them anymore. They were side-eyeing the whole thing. And me? I had the receipts taped to my bedroom wall like a trophy. That was the moment it clicked. They weren't just entitled. They thought they were untouchable. They thought they could spin a lie about their own kid, and nobody would call them on it. Well, guess what? The internet noticed. And that's when the story stopped being their fairy tale and started being my proof. By day 3 of this perfect family getaway, the Vineyard slideshow was still rolling. More selfies, more captions about how magical everything was, more proof that they were living their best life without me. The flu excuse was still their official story, and they were doubling down. I guess they thought the combination of sad emojis and Natalie's Instagram reels would be enough to distract everyone from the fact that their youngest was MIA. But then came the neighbor. We've got one of those neighbors who doesn't miss a thing. Retired, home all day, somehow knows when the mailman is running late by 2 minutes. She also happens to be a school nurse. Basically, the last person you want realizing you've left your 17-year-old at home while you're sipping wine in another country. So picture this. I'm chilling on the couch, eating chips, watching the contractor drill into pipes when the Ring doorbell dings. Neighbors standing there, asking if I'm home alone. I tell her, yeah, parents are gone. Big mistake. 10 minutes later, my parents are getting a phone call in Tuscany mid-photo session. Apparently, the call went something like this. Neighbor tells them it looks like they abandoned a minor at home, and she said she felt obligated to escalate it if they didn't fix it immediately. She literally used the words child abandonment, overcautious or not. I wasn't there, but according to Evan, everyone in the room froze when Dad took the call. You know it's bad when even Mr. Relax, it's fine. Suddenly can't relax. Guests overheard everything. It's not like you can quietly handle being accused of child abandonment at a vineyard. Dad tried walking away to whisper, but apparently his whispering voice is about as subtle as a chainsaw. Everyone caught bits of it. No, he's fine. He's 17. Yes, we arranged. No police. Okay, I'll fix it. That's how fast their story unraveled. The funniest part? The guests started whispering to each other. I wasn't there, obviously, but I got play-by-play later. Someone asked Natalie, wait, did they actually leave him home alone? And she, being the PR rep of the family, tried to spin it. Oh no, he's sick. We thought it was best. Except by then my urgent care post was already floating around the extended family group chat. So when Natalie tried to push the flu narrative, one of Mom's cousins apparently went, but he just posted a negative test. Boom. The room knew. So while my parents were clinking glasses and pretending their life was a fairy tale, the reality was out there. Their little secret had made it into the grapevine. Literally. And because they didn't want the neighbor calling the cops, they had to scramble. Imagine being in Italy and having to figure out how to prove your kid isn't alone back home. Dad started blowing up my phone, texts like, "You need to go stay with someone now." Mom followed with, "Please, just go to a friend's. We can't deal with this right now. We can't deal with this right now." Like I was the inconvenience, not their own actions. Eventually, they arranged for a family friend's parents to check in on me. The friend's mom showed up like a parole officer, asking if I had food and if anyone had been over. She even wrote a note saying she'd stop by daily, just so the neighbor wouldn't call the authorities. That was their big fix. Outsourcing responsibility to someone else. Like always. Meanwhile, back in Tuscany, the damage control wasn't working. Guests had heard enough. It's one thing to claim your kid is sick. It's another to get caught mid-ceremony arguing about welfare checks. People started asking questions they couldn't spin. One guest apparently said to Evan, "Why didn't your brother just come?" And Evan, in peak Evan fashion, shrugged and said, "Guess they forgot," which landed extra ironic once his screenshot proved they hadn't. Just straight up admitted it. Natalie wasn't as calm. She apparently snapped at someone saying, "Why is everyone obsessed with him? He's fine. He always makes things bigger than they are." Classic Natalie. Gaslight, dismiss, act like I'm dramatic while she's the one melting down in designer shoes. And my parents? Oh, they were furious with me for existing in this mess. Mom texted me again. "Stop posting things. You're making us look bad in front of everyone." Dad added, "We can't focus on this right now. Be mature. Be mature." From the guy who forgot to buy me a plane ticket and got called out for abandonment mid-wedding vows. So yeah, their vineyard fantasy was officially tanked. What was supposed to be about romance and wine tastings turned into whispers about the kid they left home alone and the neighbor threatening to call the cops. People didn't see a happy family. They saw a cover-up falling apart in real time. And me? I was just sitting on the couch, watching it unfold from the safety of my living room, eating chips, and making sure the dog didn't pee on the rug. Honestly, it was the most entertainment I'd had from them in years. By this point, their whole flu story had collapsed harder than Dad's attempts at DIY. The neighbor had already blown up their cover mid-ceremony. Relatives were buzzing about child abandonment, and my urgent care negative was floating around like a wanted poster. You'd think they would just admit it. But no. Denial is their love language. So I'm minding my own business, scrolling when I get a DM from Evan. Now, Evan isn't exactly the type to stand up for me. Usually, he's Switzerland. Silent, neutral, maybe throwing in a bro chill if things get tense. But this time, he sends me a screenshot from the family WhatsApp chat. It was a thread from months ago, time-stamped during booking. And right there, in Dad's text, it said, "Just the four of us this time." Easier to plan. Followed by Mom's, "Yes, let's keep it simple. OP won't mind." And then Natalie chiming in, "Yeah, he'd hate it anyway." So much for "we forgot." They didn't forget. They planned it without me. The whole house sitter angle wasn't some accident. It was deliberate. They didn't want 5 tickets, 5 hotel reservations, 5 sets of clothes. They wanted their curated foursome for the Vineyard album. Evan added a short note under the screenshot. "I didn't realize at the time what this meant. Thought you knew. Sorry, bro." Which on one hand was pathetic. But on the other, it was the first time he actually admitted they screwed me over. The sorry wasn't even the important part. The screenshot was. Hard proof they cut me out on purpose. As if that wasn't enough, Natalie decided to open her mouth too. She texts me directly, "Hey, since you're staying home anyway, could you watch her daughter for a few days once we're back? I have stuff going on." That was her message. Not an apology. Not an explanation. Just, "You're already the family babysitter. Might as well lean into it." She didn't even acknowledge the elephant in the room. That she was in Italy drinking wine while I was feeding the dog and dealing with the contractor. I replied, "Ask the parents who actually invited you to Italy. I'm busy." She immediately shot back, "You're being dramatic. You're fine. Don't make everything about you." Classic Natalie. Forget me, dump responsibility on me, then accuse me of making it about me. At that point, I realized this wasn't just petty favoritism anymore. This was strategic exclusion. They'd crafted an entire plan to make me the caretaker back home while they played happy family in Italy. And the funniest part? They didn't even expect me to notice. So I called the only person who consistently notices me, Grandma. She picked up and I laid it all out. The WhatsApp receipts, the babysitting request, the neighbor threatening cops. She wasn't shocked. She just sighed and said, "I knew it." According to her, my parents had been pulling this stunt since I was little, always making sure Natalie and Evan were in the spotlight, while I was the easy one they didn't have to bother with. Except now it wasn't just favoritism, it was leaving me home like an unwanted Amazon package. Grandma didn't mince words. They did this on purpose. Don't let them spin it otherwise. You need to start planning your way out. That's when she offered reinforcements. She said she and Uncle David were coming down by car. I told her not to because her health isn't great, but she cut me off. "I'm not asking. We're coming." And that's when I knew things were about to get interesting. Because my parents could gaslight me, ignore me, or spin lies online. But Grandma? She's the one person they can't handle. She's called them out before, and they hate it. And now she was on her way, driving with Uncle David, armed with the one thing they couldn't talk over: facts. So here's the scene as it stood. The vineyard fantasy was collapsing. Their guests were whispering. Relatives were side-eyeing. Evan accidentally leaked the WhatsApp receipts. Natalie proved she sees me as free childcare. And Grandma was on her way with Uncle David, ready to drag the truth out into the open. And me? I just sat there watching it unfold like the world's most satisfying TV show. Except this time, I wasn't the extra character in the background. I was about to be the plot twist.